I must say, one of the disturbing features about South Africa today is what I suppose is imported from the United States called false facts, or alternative facts. The reality is that SARS, rather unfortunately, and it's regrettable, has issued a statement. They first sent me a letter, which I only saw yesterday upon my return from a conference that I was in Malaysia. I replied that immediately, and today, of course, has been the press release. All of what has been said, including by the spokesperson, is based on about 10 lines of an article that appeared in City Press, which was only brought to my attention yesterday, of a 45-minute speech that I gave. I've already written to City Press saying it doesn't actually capture what I said. And yet, when SARS issued this statement, it didn't do what you thought it would do, which is to call me and say, can you give us a copy of the speech? Did you say these things? If they had, I would have said, here it is, and this is what I said. So the answer is, I have never suggested that SARS is imploding. To the contrary. The problem that I face, and I think everybody else faces, is the sort of questions that you've been putting. Namely, there's not a week goes by, not a month goes by, without some other report which reaches the media. And there are really important perceptions out there that need to be changed, because perceptions are important. And I articulated the concern that because there are perceptions that SARS isn't quite what it used to be, this is most unfortunate. SARS is the jewel in the state crown. There shouldn't be these perceptions, and we need to deal with them. The fact that I alluded to them is not news. It's not new. Everybody knows that, and we've got to deal with it. So, one, I never suggested SARS is an organisation which is imploding. Number two, in relation to tax collection, my line has been, I think it is true that the major reason for a reduction is clearly economic downturn, but there do seem to be some oddities in the figures. For example, corporate income tax is more than budgeted for. So the real issue is, are there other questions here? Is there greater degree of tax evasion in relation to individuals? Are there some fraud in the VAT system that we haven't picked up, which we need to pick up? That's not an attack on SARS. Those are observations which require debate. And what I've suggested as well is at the end of the month, when the final tax collections come in, we'll all be able to sit down rationally and work out exactly what the reasons are. And they may well be that they're totally as a result of economic downturn. I haven't suggested anything which is, in a sense, undermines SARS. This is an extraordinary invention based on a few lines from a report which I have sought to correct and which I was never given, as it were, the courtesy of any query by SARS before they rushed to press.
Judge, there's something quite serious that's come up. The comment that you are reported to have made that attorneys, advocates at the bar are earning more than 5 million rand and they're not declaring tax.
Do people not have a sense of humour anymore? What I said was, the figures make no sense to me over 5 million rand, right? I said, I thought that, I know more people than Joburg Bar earn that. It was a joke. But the serious part about it is, it does seem to me that we may be having an underreportage of income in the high net worth individuals. It might be caused because of people earning more through capital gains in income tax. It may be because of dividend income. The reality is, this is not an attack on SARS. SARS itself has informed us, rightly said, that it wishes to deal with high net worth individuals, because they've acknowledged that there's an issue of actually focusing thereon. And instead of taking a joke, which just goes to show, you take lines out of context out of a speech, and that line always gets a smile from an audience, and obviously it didn't get a smile here because it was taken out of context.
So you don't know people who are not declaring tax, and you, in your position, haven't not declared that, if you know what I mean.
No, what I'm saying is that I'm anxious about whether, and by the way, SARS is clearly anxious too, because they've set up, according to the operating model that was presented to us, and rightly so, they wanted to focus on high net worth individuals, and they're right to do so. We encourage them to do so. We support that. And the reason is, because you can never, it's not about the tax collector being at fault, it's the question of whether, in fact, there's an adequate tax morality amongst some people. Let us give an example. We know very well that there are all sorts of people in this country, probably people listening to your television program, who have money out of the country illegally. Now, it's very difficult to track them down. That's why we've got an amnesty. And in fact, what I said wasn't that SARS not going to succeed in that. I think SARS will succeed. In fact, I keep on saying, if it wasn't for that, how come every time I'm interviewed in the press, I say I think there's 6, 7, 8 billion that SARS is likely to connect there. It's precisely because I have a confidence in them. Yeah, I don't. What I'm somewhat more doubting is whether we have the capacity to put people in jail who refuse to come clean. And that's an NPA problem, that's not a SARS problem, and we need to deal with those issues as to whether there is the commercial expertise within that institution. But those are points of debate, they're hardly points of critique.
Finally, Judge, this has blown up publicly. What are you going to do? What is your response to SARS saying in a statement today that you should recuse yourself or be axed?
Okay, I'm not recusing myself because I don't think I've done anything wrong for the reasons I've mentioned. The speech I gave, and I think I sent you an email of the copy of the letter I wrote to the City Press, is an adequate reflection, a very accurate reflection of what I said. There's no reason for anybody to suggest there's anything wrong with that. If the minister feels that I've got to go, that's his prerogative. Because, by the way, I don't know where SARS gets this from. We weren't asked to advise the Commissioner. Certainly, I'm happy to advise the Commissioner. In fact, when I first met the Commissioner, I even offered to go and talk to high net worth individuals and corporates with the Commissioner and encourage a better tax compliance. But at the end of the day, my remit is from the Minister. If the Minister feels I'm not up to the job, he's very welcome to tell me so, and of course I would then have to do what I'd have to do. But I don't. Well, what I'm saying is what I have suggested, what I wrote yesterday to the Commissioner was, I think it's extremely unhelpful for us to have these debates in public. I think it's much more helpful, and I've been asking for a meeting since the 19th of December to sit down with the Commissioner and talk about the issues which we're investigating and examining and reporting on, and which of course will be to the benefit of SARS. Let me say again, I don't get paid for this. I do this as an additional part of the job. It's true, I get paid as a judge, but I don't get any additional money. I do this because I really am committed to the notion of democracy in South Africa and an institution of SARS, which is important to that. And so I've offered again to meet, and I think the way to deal with this is to actually reconcile the differences, because quite frankly, there are perceptive differences here. I have not attacked SARS, and there is no basis for the allegations that have been made against me.
All right. Thank you for your time this evening. On the line, Judge Dennis Davis. And this can go back and forth, but we do have both parties. I will, you've asked for it, give you a final word, because he is saying that he was misquoted. He was talking about perceptions around SARS, not his own opinion. He's also saying that he's been wanting to speak to the Commissioner, that this could have been dealt with person to person or institution to person.
Look, we continue to say that. Let me give an example. So in this conference, he was also attacking SARS together with a gentleman called Yolisa Pike. Yolisa Pike used to work for SARS. He was dismissed from SARS because of misrepresentation of his qualification. And there's a criminal case that has been opened. Mr. Ivan Pillay, who is known to have resigned under not very good conditions with the Commissioner, was there. So it was a chorus of organized crowd that he was there to attack.
Okay. So you're not buying what he said, basically?
We're not buying anything that he says, and if he's not going to recuse himself, it will be unfortunate, because remember, he provides service to us. So if we say we don't want your service, we don't believe in your service, and you say I'm going to service you nevertheless, that will show, judge will know that it's fruitless and wasteful expenditure. From where we're sitting, we want a person who's going to help us to go forward, not a person who's going to make us to be sitting here wasting our energy instead of mobilizing people to pay their taxes, rather than discouraging them to pay their taxes.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you very much. Luther Labello from SARS. We take a short break, more news coming.